When President Biden visited Ukraine, this air raid siren suddenly went off. And this CNN reporter says he's been in Kyiv and hadn't heard any siren until Biden's visit.
I've been here for the past 5 days. I have not heard any explosions. I have not heard any air sirens until about half an hour ago, right when President Biden was in the center of Kyiv, as Clarissa was just mentioning.
Did someone sound this siren to make Byron look like he was braving danger on the visit? You tell me. New York House Republican George Santos admits he's been a terrible liar, but he didn't lie to fool people. Oh no, he lied to be accepted by the party. What?
Wall Street superstar. I was this, my family were this, and it was all untrue. So I don't categorize these as mistakes. I think that part of your process, of the cathartic process of redemption, if you like, it's got to start from, I've been a terrible liar. I mean, would you be prepared to say that?
Sure. Like I said, well, I've been a terrible liar on those subjects. And what I tried to convey to the American people is I made mistakes of allowing the pressures of what I thought needed to be done in order to... This wasn't about tricking anybody. This wasn't about this. It's.
Yes, he was.
No. Let me finish.
The whole thing was about tricking people.
Let me finish. It wasn't about tricking the people. This was about getting accepted by the party.
So you're saying that your grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and that was designed to appeal to the party, not to voters?
Look, as I always joke, I'm Jew-ish.
Throughout his campaign, Republican Congressman-elect George Santos would refer to himself as half Jewish or a Latino Jew, often telling his grandparents' story, how he says they survived the Holocaust as Ukrainian Jewish refugees and converted to Catholicism, changing their surname to Survive. Here's how Santos explained it just last month in an interview with the Jewish News Syndicate.
I'm very proud of my grandparents' story. My grandfather fleeing Ukraine, fleeing Stalin's persecution, going to Belgium, finding refuge there, marrying my grandmother, then fleeing Hitler, going to Brazil. That's a story of perseverance.
James O'Keefe, founder of Project Veritas, says he's out, having been removed as CEO by his board.
I remember back in the beginning, 13 years ago, when I had no money, I would have to use bubble gum, duct tape. I think you were around during that time. I keep looking at you because I've known you since Andrew Breitbart. And my grandmother's chinchilla, I literally had to place a Project Veritas sticker on a piece of cardboard that I ripped off from my dad's cardboard and stick it to a microphone at Radio Shack because I had no money to buy a flag mic. And this was after experiencing a meteoric high of the Acorn story. I was up and I was down, and I was broke again, and I was arrested, and then crashed down to a meteoric low, back in the carriage house, resorting once again to bubble gum and duct tape to achieve the NPR investigation that took us yet again to a meteoric high. I was so broke that I had to scribble my name and phone numbers on pieces of paper because I had no business cards.
It's interesting that this is happening right after arguably Project Veritas's greatest coup, and that was getting the Pfizer R&D executive to say that Pfizer was considering doing research to create mutations of the coronavirus so they could create vaccines for the mutations they create. Here again is part of what that Pfizer executive said.
A revolving door for all government officials. It's pretty good for the industry, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's bad for everyone else in America.
Why is it bad for everybody else?
Because if the regulators who have to approve our drugs know that once they stop being regulated, they want to come work for the company, they're not going to be as hard for the company. They're doing their job. We're exploring, now, you know how the virus keeps mutating?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're exploring is, why don't we just mutate it ourselves so we could actively develop new vaccines, right? So we have to do that. If we're going to do that, though, there's a risk of, as you could imagine, no one wants to be having a pharma company mutating viruses.
Yeah.
So we're like, do we want to do this? So that's like one of the things we're considering.
Okay.
Like the future, like maybe we can like create new versions of the vaccines and things like that.
Okay, so Pfizer ultimately is thinking about mutating COVID?
Well, that is not what we say to the public. No. I mean, that's why it was a thought that came up at a meeting, and we were like, why do we not? It was like, we're going to consider that with more discussions.
Okay.
That exact reaction, right? We're like, wait a minute, like, people won't like that.
And then there was the Project Veritas video released in October 2017. The main subject, New York Times senior page editor Des Hsu. According to her Times bio, she is part of the team that produces the digital report for the homepage and mobile feeds. But in the bar to this undercover Project Veritas reporter, she says she curates the front page. That means she is a big deal. Ms. Hsu said the paper is, quote, widely understood to be left-leaning, but added this to the undercover Project Veritas reporter, quote, our main sources are supposed to be objective. It's very difficult in this day and age to do that. What I was trying to say is the last couple of years, it's been changed for the bad. I think the business model itself is just, well, there's so much panic about what to do that, you know, what else is a company supposed to do, she said. That's the conundrum, is that a business model in this time is built on what the readers want, end of quote. No kidding. She also said this, and I'm quoting her, since the elections, referring to the 2016 election, you know, speaking on for the New York Times, our subscriptions have skyrocketed. I mean, they call it the Trump bump. I feel like Trump is just a sort of idiot in a lot of ways, she said. Just an oblivious idiot. About Vice President Mike Pence, she said, he is effing horrible. Back to Trump, she said, and I'm quoting, I think one of the things that maybe journalists were thinking about is like, oh, if we write about him, about how insanely crazy he is and how ludicrous his policies are, well, then maybe people will react and be like, oh, wow, we shouldn't vote for him, end of quote. Again, that was a Project Veritas undercover video done in October 2017. Great work, Project Veritas. By the way, one allegation against O'Keefe is that he spent excessively and that he was verbally abusive to his staffers. All I know is this. Project Veritas has done some groundbreaking reporting, and O'Keefe has been the face of the organization. So it will be interesting to see what both Project Veritas and O'Keefe do going forward. We wish them both well. Got a question for you. Are you concerned with stock market volatility?
Markets closing in on their worst year since the financial crisis.
Since 2020, the Dow closed down more than 1,100 points.
Financial markets had their worst day since the start of the pandemic.
Do you really trust this economy?
The U.S. economy could be headed for a recession.
Tonight, the alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly 40 years.
What if you can invest in a portfolio with a high fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market? Well, you can turn your monthly income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and get this, there is no loss of principal if you need your money back, and absolutely no fees. Just log on to investyrefy.com. Folks, I personally invest with my own money with YRefi. So log on to investyrefy.com or call 888-YREFI24. That's 888-YREFI24. Now, it didn't take long for Nikki Haley to be called, in essence, a white supremacist. Wajahat Ali of the Daily Beast said this.
Nikki Haley instead is the Dinesh D'Souza of Candace Owens. She's the alpha Karen with brown skin. And for white supremacists and racists, she's the perfect Manchurian candidate. And instead of applauding her, I am just disgusted by people like Nikki Haley who know better, whose parents were the beneficiaries, as Asha said, of the 1965 Immigration Nationality Act, which passed thanks to those original BLM protesters and the Civil Rights Act. Her father came here because he was a professor. He taught at a historically black college in South Carolina. That's how she became the proud American that she is. And yet, what does she do? Like all these model minorities, which, by the way, is a strategy of white supremacy to use Asians in particular as a cudgel against black folks. Instead of pulling us up from the bootstraps and pulling others from the bootstrap, we're taught to take your boot and put it on the neck of poor browns, immigrants, refugees, and black folks. And that's what she did in her ad. So I see her and I feel sad, Mehdi. because she uses her brown skin as a weapon against poor black folks and poor brown folks, and she uses her brown skin to launder white supremacist talking points.
Remember what Don Lemon said about Nikki Haley?
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google
or whatever it is.
Well, it looks like the ladies on The View agree with Mr. Lemon.
Gen Z and millennials make up about a third of the country, but we're nowhere near a third of the government, and I think we need a government that needs to look like the country.
It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership.
The Washington establishment has failed us over and over and over again. It's time for a new generation of leadership.
You're not a new generation. You're 51. What are you talking about?
Compared to DC, that's a new generation.
Well, but it's not a new generation. She may be younger than most of those people, but her rhetoric is the same.
Yesterday, we talked about how CNN, during my campaign for governor, said I was wrong when I suggested that young people did not need to be vaccinated.
I don't believe the science suggests that young people should be vaccinated. I don't believe the science suggests that young people should have to wear masks at school. I'm not sure the science is settled on that at all. And young people are not likely to contract the coronavirus. And when they do, their symptoms are likely to be mild, and they're not likely to be hospitalized, and they're certainly not likely to die.
The science says he's wrong on several counts. Millions of children have tested positive for COVID-19. They're being hospitalized, and masks are proven to prevent the spread of the virus.
Well, Bill Maher calls out CNBC's chief legal counsel, Ari Melber, over that network's COVID reporting.
Because I saw in the paper today, kind of a big story, I think. I wonder how much it's going to get covered in the liberal media, because it's about how natural immunity, they did a giant study, 65 countries, or maybe something like 65 countries, many, many different studies. They looked at them all. Natural immunity, as good or better than the vaccine. Something I've been saying since the beginning, and I get called an anti-vaxxer. That's not an anti-vaxxer. This is the kind of thing, my problem with the media from both sides is not that you guys lie. It's that you tell me your side of the story that you want me to know. You don't tell me the whole story. I'd be curious as to how much play this story gets, because I remember reading that they did a study of Republicans versus Democrats. The question was, what percentage, this is like a year and a half ago, what percentage of people who get COVID require hospitalization? The answer is less than 1%. Almost half of Democrats thought it was over 50%. They listened to your network. Where do they get that kind of information?
That was to you. That was clearly.
Okay, that's bad information they have in their head, and it's from one side.
Sure looks like Melber wanted to be somewhere else.
Want to get away?
In my baby brown libertarian fingers, I have a pair of My Pillow, My Slippers. They come in different colors. They come in different sizes. You've never slipped your foot into anything more comfortable. And now for the My Pillow. And now there's the My Pillow 2.0. All you have to do is call the number on your screen. There are over 100 products. Or you can go to mypillow.com, promo code ELDER. And don't forget the 6-pack towels that work, meaning they are absorbent. They come in different colors. And remember, they work. By that I mean they absorb the water. There are over 100 products, as I said. Call the number on your screen or go to mypillow.com. Use promo code ELDER. And finally, I've got the My Pillow Giza Dream Bed Sheets. made out of the finest cotton in the world, an area in Egypt called Giza, where the best cotton is found. They come in different colors. Mine, of course, is in white because, after all, I'm the black face of white supremacy, but you are not. You may want a different color. You may want a different size, depending upon the size of your bed. So call the number on your screen. Again, there are over 100 products. Or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. That's MyPillow.com. What? Promo code ELDER. Now, I know you enjoy the show, so be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and scroll down a little bit and see where you can become a member of our mailing list. Why? Well, believe it or not, from time to time, YouTube has issues with our videos. I don't know why, but in order to make sure you don't miss a single video, you've got to get on our mailing list. You'll also see that little donate button. Click that on. Throw a little something in the tip jar. Make sure we can continue giving you hard-hitting, candid programming. And remember, LarryWithEpoch.com, LarryWithEpoch.com. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epoch Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. See you next time.